Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mob Psycho 100 Season 2, Episode 4. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I thought it was so interesting when we had that cold opening with Dimple and like him and some pals were getting attacked by someone, and I was like, with the way the episode was going, I was like, well, what's the correlation and what's the connection? It turns out there is a through line there. So it's also interesting to know have a better idea of how long Dimple's been around. I never really gave it too much thought in season 1, but it's like, yeah, he's been around over 40 years. So I wonder will we ever dive into who Dimple was in his previous life. Maybe not. I don't think we ever covered that last season, if I remember correctly, but maybe I'm misremembering. Either way, they took a job from a rich guy, but it turns out Regan's not the only one that took the job. A whole bunch of other psychics did too, which we see two familiar faces. One is Shinra from episode 2, and we also see, what was his name? Was it Matsuo? He's the guy that collected the spirits. He was part of Claw's 7th Division. He was part of the Scars. He shows up there too, but he's hiding in the background because he saw Mob and Regan, and he's like, nah, I'm actually trying to do legitimate work now, which now begs the question. It's like, I guess Regan's whole conversation to everybody was like, yo, you need to be respectable adults, be a part of society, look at the world, be a part of it. So I guess they've all kind of gone off to try and find regular adult jobs and lives, maybe. So he's the one we caught up with. I'm curious to see if we catch up with anyone else, including the I'm blanking on his name now, but the main head honcho of the 7th Division. Either way, it turns out all these psychics were gathered because this rich guy's daughter, what's his name, like Agashi or something like that? I think his name is like Masashi, I think is his first name. But either way, he's a rich dude and his daughter has been possessed and he wants someone to try and rid this evil spirit that's in his daughter. And I love that it's like, well, everyone wants their chance, but it's like, how do we decide this? It's rock, paper, scissors. And I love that Regan's like, I'm going to go paper. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go rock. And it's like, which one is he going? And then everyone prepares and somehow Regan comes out on top. It's like, he's a con man. I guess it's like, right, as a con man, he would be able to win. I guess he's got good enough reflexes that he like was just able to notice the angle. I think the whole point was the angle everyone's hands was moving, like in a split second he was able to decide. But he's also a con man, so he could have just as easily lied, and just like when he saw what everyone else picked, I guess it's also a thing of he kind of psychologically got in everyone's head of like, okay, so he's picking scissors or paper, so we know what to do to counter that, and all he had to do was get inside everyone's head, and it's like, nah, I'm gonna pick. I guess that's all we get to it, because he just immediately beat literally everyone. I forgot to talk about this, but we also see Shinra's boss. What is it, like Judo, I think is his name, because I brought that up in episode 2. I was like, I'm pretty sure he probably has a larger organization, because he was bringing up that whole like, he's like, oh, you have to, if you want to do psychic business here, you have to like kind of be a part of this group. And it's like, I didn't know, we didn't see anyone else but him, but that's because he was just off on his own at the time. I even love like Judo's like, oh yeah, this is Regan, the guy that's lying about beating the dragon. It's like, well, to be fair, yes, he's lying about it to some extent, because him nor Shinra beat him, but it's like, well, Mob did, so there's a technical lie there, but it's like, nah, I mean, the Dragger was defeated, just wasn't defeated by Regan, so. But anyway, he goes and talks to the kid, and boy, oh boy, somebody very like Exorcist level, like, gaslighting her, being like, I don't know what my dad's doing this to me. He hits me sometimes. He chained me to this bed trying to play the victim. And literally every other psychic outside is like, oh yeah, like I can tell they're turning on the dad. But he's like, no. I thought it was really interesting when they all started manifesting and turning into bears. I don't know like what that, I guess like maybe that's where his psyche is right now with everything going on with his daughter. But it almost worked. It literally worked on everyone except for Regan. But Regan, despite being a con man, I mean, maybe, once again, maybe being a con man, he can sniff out another con, because he was like, yo, the way she switched between Papa and Dad, and it's just like the way she spoke was inconsistent. And it's just like, also, she immediately knew I was a psychic. That's supposed to be like a one-way mirror thing. Like, she could see us, but that means she heard the conversations on this side of the mirror. That shouldn't be possible for her to immediately, I didn't even introduce myself, for her to know I am a psychic. Because Mob nor Shinra could sense any evil spirits. Well, Shinra sensed one, but it was Dimple like floating right beside him. But for Mob not to sense anything either, I think that's kind of interesting. And I wonder, is it just because, well, we find out later on Morgami, like maybe he was just like hiding himself so deep within the girl that you couldn't sense him. But what was his name? Judo was kind of like, oh yeah, like this girl is perfectly normal. But then it's like, okay, I guess the farce is up. I don't need to hide anymore. And proceeds, everyone tries their tactics of trying to like release the evil spirit within her. But Dimple recognizes this as the guy they ran into like 40 years ago. Apparently Morgami Kinji was like, is it Kinji or Kiji, whatever the case may be. Morgami, it's like he's a well-known psychic. He was extremely powerful. He was well known on TV and stuff. Kind of, I guess, like popularity-wise, he's kind of probably what Regan strives to be, but isn't, because for one, he doesn't have the actual psychic powers to back it up. I guess you can make the argument he kind of technically does, because he has Mob. But when it's all said and done, he would kill people and get rid of spirits, all for the purposes of money, for good reasons. But he would do terrible things for, good reasons. And it's like his mom was sick, and the medicine and machinery necessarily to take care of her cost a lot of money. And it just started eroding him more and more and more the more he did, to the point that he's going to devour, like every time he comes across a spirit or whatever, he would devour it, because he's like, when I die, when I cast off this mortal coil, I'll become a vengeful spirit. And once I'm a vengeful spirit, I'll have so much power. Because his whole thing is about, like, right, this world, it's kind of like a world of people kind of with power. I guess would have to deal with his mom, of like, maybe it's like, I forgot the exact wording. I don't remember. It was a thing of like, he views the world as liars, and he's just kind of like wants to prove a point of like, right, here I am with actual power. Let me show you how it should be done and how you should use it and stuff. But he almost killed Dimple back then. Pulled a bit of a Mob, because only a little bit of Dimple was, I mean, technically, like, the first thing happened with Mob, and then there was a second situation with Teruki almost like killing him, but a fragment of him was still left, and same thing in this regard. But he managed to slip away in time. But yeah, he's like, yo, let's get out of here. Even telling Mob, being like, yo, Shigeo, like, when it's all said and done, like, even if you end up dying here, at the very least, we could be pals together in the afterlife. But Regan was like, shut up, don't talk like that. Everyone else gets like their shit pushed in, because he rocks everybody. But even Regan started taking notice, like, right, like he's like, Mob is changing. He's like, or at the very least, he's trying to change himself. It's like, I guess Regan has never really noticed that till now. I mean, that's the whole reason why Mob is in the body improvement club. But I guess this is like the first instance of showing like, right, Mob has grown and changed because of all his experiences so far. Like, we are seeing these episode by episode situations so far in this season already changing him, or presenting a certain side of him that I think even Regan had never really considered before. What was it? Yeah, Judo got possessed, and Regan had to use his special anti-possession knee strike and knock him unconscious. But then, like, the Megami possessing the girl's body starts strangling Regan, but even Mob couldn't even push him off. And that's when the dad tried to get in the way. He's like, I think his daughter's name is something like, is it like Morai or something like that? I'm going to be probably butchering it. I can't remember. Something like that. But the Morgami ends up like stabbing the dad. I'm like, is the dad actually dead? Is this going to be like our actual first, like, actual, I mean, yes, they're spirits, so people have died, sure, but like, like in the confines of the show, like someone just being a spirit that died a long time ago, like in the mid, like this is the first time a case has ever led to someone actually dying potentially. If he's dead, he got impaled through the like stomach, but I mean, he could still be alive miraculously. But I'm also scared for the little girl that's being possessed, because they even made the point, like, yeah, she's probably around Mob's age. Is that when she was attacking people, in particular Shirai, she was Mogami was reaching for Shinra, but Mob stopped him. But he started breaking the body, because it's like, yeah, I'm puppeteering the body. I can hurt this body and push this body beyond where it can go, just because it won't affect me. Nothing you do to this body will affect me. And Mob had to stop, because he's like, I don't want you breaking this body, this poor girl. And I'm like, is she even going to be okay when this is all said and done? But he sees Mob, and the two of them kind of go at it, because Mob tries to like expel him from her body. But the problem is, like, I don't know if Mob doing what he did helped, because he's like, oh, I messed up. But basically, Mogami like ends up fusing with her body. So it's kind of like the combination of spirit and human fully entangled. So separating them won't be easy. So Mob's like, I gotta basically do it from the inside. I have to jump into her mind and psyche and like sever the link. I have to push him out. And it's like, well, how are you going to do that? It's like, I have to use what I learned last episode and apply it here and do an out-of-body experience. But he's asking Dimple to possess his body, where Dimple's kind of like, oh, you sure you want to do that? And even Regan's like, I don't think that's the best idea. But Mom's like, it's going to be okay. And I think for Dimple, it's like, wow, despite everything, you have that much faith in me. It's like, yeah, he has come to rely on you. Like, probably doesn't always express it, but he probably does think of you as a friend. He knows you have ulterior motives, but he's also put more trust in you. And I think that meant a lot to Dimple. And I even love that whole situation where we got to see what Mob's spirit looks like. It's like a little like white, like puffy little thing. But yeah, Dimple takes over his body and is trying to keep it away from Mogami. And Mob strikes and gets inside, and he's fighting off Mogami, and it seems like he easily defeats him. But then he's like, do you know where our powers come from, like psychic abilities, ESP? It's from emotions. And he's kind of talking about like basically the whole conversation about emotions. The positive ones aren't as strong as negative ones. The negative ones is what's really there. And he says, and he immediately recognizes with Mob, is like, I wanted to kind of test like what do your powers come from? And he realizes like, you are blocking your emotions for whatever reason. And he's kind of like blocking Mob from using his powers, and steps on him, kind of petrifies and turns him to stone. And it's like, okay, basically he's like, I'm curious what kind of emotions you'll see, like what, because the whole point is, in this spiritual world, it's like how we appear is how we view ourselves. And he appeared as himself until he starts showing the evil spirit side of himself, and he got more malicious looking. But it's kind of like, all right, what will be your view in the world? He wants to kind of contort Mob's view in the world, kind of like his is contorted, just for the purposes of like, cool, I'm gonna go inside of your head, I'm gonna make you relive, like you're gonna live your life, but we're gonna see what your life is like without your ESP, and let's see what that like that view will do, like how will that change you? Because it's like Mogami kind of wants to break Mob, kind of like the world kind of broke him. And it's just like, so far the world, despite everything he's been through, what he's seen, it's kind of like the world hasn't broken him. It's a thing that Mob's kind of never like been dissatisfied with having his ability. So it's like, right, here's a life, a what if of what if you didn't have powers, how different your life would be, and how that will change your view on the world. You know, he has this very specific view on equalizing like how spirits and humans are to him. But it's like, he's seen the ugly side of spirits, he's seen the good side of spirits, he's seen the good side of humans, but he's seen the ugly side of humans. Now it's like, whoa, how do you contend with that when you don't have psychic powers? It's like, how much of a difference did having psychic powers impact your life? And how much of that is obviously real, and how much it is just, you know, it's like, is it projecting what Mob thinks his life would be? Or is this home dude just Mogami like pulling like strings, doing everything he can to make your life harder for you because he wants just to prove his point? So very interesting setup for the next episode. Once again, not too many occasions where we've had jobs carry over into another episode. Usually they're isolated to the very episode, you know, with the exception of like, once again, I did say jobs and not just story beats like the the claw stuff from last season. But either way, I'm excited to see where the. I guess it's like the other one. Well, it didn't count as Jobby. I was about to say like the Taruki situation carried over into the next episode. But either way, I'm really excited to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.